I stared at my phone screen, reading the text message for the third time. "Mortgage due," my mother had written, followed by an exclamation point that somehow managed to convey both panic and expectation. It was exactly 1 month since I had discovered that my parents left their entire $200,000 estate to my younger brother Tyler, while completely excluding me from their will. For 3 years, I had been secretly paying their $1,500 monthly mortgage, without anyone in my family knowing. My response was simple and calm. I know. What my mother didn't realize was that her favorite son's inheritance was about to become his biggest nightmare, and the brother they had dismissed was finally done being their financial safety net. 3 years ago, everything changed when my father, Bob, suffered what doctors called a mild stroke. At 58, he had been working as a shift supervisor at the local Ford plant in Cleveland for over 25 years. The stroke wasn't life-threatening, but it left him with slight speech difficulties and trembling in his left hand. More importantly, it forced him into early retirement with reduced benefits. My mother, Linda, who worked part-time as a receptionist at a dental office, suddenly found herself struggling to cover their $1,500 monthly mortgage payment on their modest 3-bedroom ranch home in Parma Heights. I watched them stress over bills during family dinners, saw the worry lines deepening around my mother's eyes, and noticed how my father's pride kept him from asking for help directly. So, I made a decision that would define the next 3 years of my life. Without telling anyone, I set up an automatic transfer from my construction company's business account to my parents' mortgage company. Every month, $1,500 would quietly disappear from my earnings and keep their home safe from foreclosure. I had built Hartman Construction from nothing after high school, starting with odd jobs and gradually earning contracts for home additions and small commercial projects. By 32, I employed 6 full-time workers and had enough steady business to easily afford helping my parents. The money wasn't the issue. What mattered was keeping the family together and secure. Meanwhile, my younger brother Tyler had moved back home after finishing law school at Case Western Reserve University. At 28, he claimed his return was temporary while he studied for the bar exam and looked for positions at Cleveland law firms. His temporary stay had stretched into 2 years, during which he contributed exactly $0 to household expenses, while eating my mother's cooking and using their basement as his personal office. The favoritism had always been obvious, but Tyler's return home made it impossible to ignore. My parents had paid his entire university tuition, bought him a new Honda Civic for graduation, and constantly praised him as the smart one, who would make something of himself. They spoke about his future legal career with the same reverence most people reserved for discussing their pastor or doctor. In contrast, I was dismissed as just a construction worker, despite owning a successful business that employed local families and contributed to the community's growth. When I mentioned landing a major renovation contract for the Westside Catholic Church, my mother would nod politely before immediately steering conversation back to Tyler's job interviews or bar exam preparation. "Erick's doing fine with his little construction thing," she would say to relatives during holiday gatherings. "But Tyler's going to be a real lawyer. Can you imagine our son arguing cases in court?" My girlfriend Amanda noticed the double standard immediately. A nurse at Metro Health Medical Center, she had sharp instincts about people and wasn't afraid to voice her observations. "They're using you," she told me one evening after a particularly painful family dinner, where Tyler had announced his plans to renovate the kitchen once he inherited the house someday. "You pay their mortgage, and they treat you like you're invisible. Meanwhile, your brother plans renovations with money he's never earned." I defended my parents because I wanted to believe their bias was unconscious. "They're just proud of Tyler's education," I said. "Mom and Dad never went to college. Having a lawyer in the family means everything to them." "But what about having a son who quietly saves their home every month?" Amanda asked. "Doesn't that mean anything?" Her question lingered in my mind during subsequent family gatherings. I began noticing smaller details that confirmed her assessment. When Tyler needed dress shirts for job interviews, Our mother took him shopping and paid for everything. When I mentioned needing new work boots, she suggested I treat myself since I was doing so well financially. When Tyler's car needed repairs, Dad spent weekends in the garage helping him and paid for parts. When my pickup truck required transmission work, I handled it alone while listening to stories about their father-son bonding time, fixing Tyler's vehicle. The most painful moment came during a family barbecue last summer. I had arrived early to help set up bringing steaks I had purchased for everyone. While grilling, I overheard my parents talking to their neighbors, the Kowalskis, about their sons. "Tyler's interviewing with 3 different law firms," my mother said proudly. "We're so blessed to have such a brilliant boy." "What about Erick?" Mrs. Kowalski asked, gesturing toward me at the grill. My father shrugged. "Oh, Erick's fine. He's got his construction work. Nothing special, but he gets by." Nothing special. Those words hit harder than any physical blow could have. I had built a business from scratch, employed 6 families, paid taxes, contributed to the community, and secretly ensured my parents kept their home. But to them, I was just getting by with nothing special. Amanda found me sitting in my truck after the barbecue, staring at the dashboard, and trying to process the casual dismissal of everything I had accomplished. "You heard them, didn't you?" she said gently. I nodded, not trusting my voice. "Honey, you can't keep sacrificing for people who don't see your value. It's destroying your self-worth." But I continued the monthly payments, because I believed family loyalty meant enduring disrespect for the greater good. I told myself their favoritism would fade once Tyler established his career and moved out. I convinced myself they would eventually recognize my contributions and appreciate my quiet sacrifices. The breaking point came during a family dinner last month, when I arrived to find my parents and Tyler huddled around the kitchen table with property tax documents and mortgage paperwork spread before them. "We need to decide what to do with the house when we're gone," my mother was saying. "Tyler should probably start learning about the property taxes and maintenance costs." "It'll be good practice for when I own it," Tyler replied, picking up the mortgage statement. "Good thing the monthly payments won't be my responsibility for much longer." I stood in the doorway, invisible and forgotten, while my family discussed plans for the house I had been financially supporting for 36 months. They spoke about Tyler's inheritance as a certainty, while completely ignoring the $54,000 I had contributed to preserving their asset. That night, I lay awake, calculating the total amount I had transferred to their mortgage company. $54,000. Enough to buy 2 new work trucks or expand my business. Money that had vanished into their family legacy without acknowledgement or gratitude. "Maybe it's time to stop," Amanda said quietly beside me in the darkness. But I wasn't ready yet. Some part of me still hoped they would surprise me. With recognition, still believed family meant something more than convenient financial arrangements. I was wrong. 2 weeks after overhearing their inheritance discussion, my father's health took a frightening turn. What started as a routine doctor's appointment for his stroke follow-up became an emergency room visit when his blood pressure spiked dangerously high. After a night in the cardiac care unit, doctors stabilized him, but warned about stress-related complications that could trigger another stroke. The health scare prompted what my mother called getting our affairs in order. Bob insisted on updating their will, immediately claiming he wanted everything official and clear for his sons. I assumed this meant they had finally recognized my financial contributions and planned to acknowledge them legally. "We're all going to Robert Chen's office on Friday," my mother announced during a phone call. "Bob wants both boys there when we make this official." Robert Chen was the estate planning attorney who had handled my parents' previous legal documents. His office occupied the second floor of a renovated Victorian house in downtown Cleveland Heights, and I had been there once before when they first created their wills 15 years earlier. On Friday morning, Amanda squeezed my hand as we sat in Chen's waiting room. She had requested the day off from the hospital to provide moral support, sensing this meeting would be emotionally significant. "Whatever happens, remember that your worth isn't determined by what they put in that document," she whispered. Tyler arrived 10 minutes late, confident, and casual in a navy suit that our mother had purchased for his job interviews. He greeted everyone with handshakes and took the seat closest to the attorney's desk, naturally assuming the position of primary importance. Chen began by reading the standard legal language about their estate distribution. My parents sat holding hands while Tyler leaned forward eagerly. I focused on staying calm and open-minded, still hoping for acknowledgement of my mortgage payments. To our son Tyler, Matthew Hartman. Chen read, "We leave our primary residence at 4300 Brook Park Road, Parma Heights, Ohio, currently valued at approximately $200,000. The house I had been paying for." Tyler's smile widened. "We also bequeath to Tyler our two vehicles, the 2018 Toyota Camry and the 2016 Honda Civic, with a combined estimated value of $35,000. Cars I had never driven, but had helped maintain through my parents' financial stability. Additionally, Tyler inherits all funds in our joint savings and checking accounts currently totaling approximately $68,000, along with all personal property, jewelry, furniture, and household items. Over $300,000 in total assets going to my younger brother." Chen paused and flipped to the next page. "To our son, Erick James Hartman." I held my breath. "We leave our gratitude for his understanding and support throughout the years." That was it, gratitude. Not a single dollar. Not a sentimental item. Not even acknowledgement of the $54,000 I had contributed to preserving their primary asset. Just gratitude for my understanding, while they gave everything meaningful to Tyler. The room felt like it was tilting sideways. I gripped Amanda's hand so tightly she winced, but she didn't pull away. My throat constricted as the reality sank in. 3 years of secret mortgage payments, decades of being the responsible son, years of building a successful business that supported their financial security, and I received gratitude. This seems fair because Tyler is just starting his career and will need more help establishing himself. My mother explained, as if the uneven distribution required justification. Erick already has his construction business and doesn't need as much support. Tyler's expression revealed smug satisfaction rather than surprise. "I appreciate Mom and Dad recognizing that I'll put these assets to good use," he said. "It's nice to finally get what I deserve." What he deserved. Not what our parents chose to give him, but what he deserved. As if 36 months of my mortgage payments had earned him the right to their entire estate. My hands started trembling as the blood drained from my face. Amanda placed her arm around my shoulders, providing the only stability in a moment that shattered everything I believed about family loyalty and reciprocal love. "Are there any questions about the distribution?" Chen asked professionally. I had 1,000 questions, but none I could voice without falling apart completely. How could they ignore my financial contributions? Why was Tyler's potential career more valuable than my actual success? When had they decided I didn't matter enough to inherit anything meaningful? Instead, I managed to say, "No questions. Everything is very clear." And it was clear. Painfully, definitively clear. As we left Chen's office, Tyler casually mentioned to our parents, "Good thing we got this sorted before the mortgage becomes a problem. It'll be nice not worrying about those monthly payments anymore." His words confirmed what I had suspected, but hoped was wrong. He knew about my financial contributions. They all knew. Tyler's comment revealed that my secret sacrifices weren't secret at all. They had simply chosen to accept my money while planning to exclude me from any benefit. That evening, Amanda and I sat in my kitchen while I stared at my laptop screen, showing the mortgage company's payment portal. For 36 consecutive months, I had logged in and authorized $1,500 transfers. The routine had become automatic, like paying my own utilities. "You don't owe them anything more," Amanda said gently. "They made their choice. Now, you get to make yours." I moved my cursor to the automatic payment settings and clicked Cancel Recurring Transfer. A confirmation screen appeared, asking if I was certain I wanted to stop future payments. I clicked Confirm. For the first time in 3 years, next month's mortgage payment would be their responsibility alone. The first thing I did after canceling the automatic transfer was create a new savings account specifically for the $1,500 that would no longer disappear each month. I called it my self-respect fund when setting it up online, though the bank system simply labeled it Savings Account 2. Walking into the branch the following Monday, I met with Susan, a financial advisor, who had helped me establish my business accounts years earlier. She reviewed my existing investments and retirement contributions before asking about my goals for the additional monthly savings. "I'm looking at this as money I've been giving away for free," I explained without elaborating on the family drama. "Now, I want it working for me instead." Susan recommended a high-yield money market account that would earn interest while keeping the funds accessible. $1,500 monthly could grow substantially over time, she noted. "What made you decide to redirect this money?" "I learned that generosity without appreciation becomes exploitation," I said. She nodded knowingly. "Family financial situations can be complicated. You're smart to prioritize your own security." Over the following weeks, I developed a strange sense of liberation, watching that account balance grow. Every dollar represented money I wasn't spending on people who considered me unworthy of inheritance. The accumulating total became a tangible reminder of my decision to stop being their invisible financial support system. Meanwhile, life continued normally on the surface. I attended family dinners every Sunday, helped my mother carry groceries when she struggled with heavy bags, and listened to Tyler's updates about job interviews and bar exam preparation. Nobody mentioned the approaching mortgage due date, and I carefully avoided bringing up financial topics. Tyler's confidence grew throughout those weeks. During one dinner, he showed us photographs on his phone of kitchen renovation ideas he had found online. "I'm thinking granite countertops and stainless steel appliances," he said, swiping through images of expensive upgrades. "Maybe open up this wall to create a more modern flow between the kitchen and dining room." "Those renovations sound costly," I observed neutrally. "Not a problem once I officially own the place," Tyler replied. "I've been researching home equity loans. This house has plenty of value to borrow against." My father nodded approvingly. "Tyler's really thinking ahead. It's smart to have plans." "What about the current mortgage?" I asked. "Are you factoring those payments into your budget?" Tyler waved dismissively. "That'll work itself out. It always does." It always does. Because I had been making it work out for 36 consecutive months. But Tyler spoke with the casual confidence of someone who had never worried about how bills actually get paid, someone whose financial security had always been provided by others. Amanda frequently asked how I felt about maintaining the charade during family gatherings. "Doesn't it bother you listening to his renovation plans when you know he can't afford the current mortgage?" "It's fascinating," I admitted. "I'm watching someone build an entire future on assumptions that are about to collapse. Part of me wants to warn him, but mostly I'm curious to see how long this fantasy lasts." The psychological aspects interested me more than I expected. Tyler had lived his entire adult life, believing he was entitled to financial support from family members. Our parents' favoritism had created a young man who expected money to appear whenever he needed it, without understanding the work or sacrifice required to earn it. During another family gathering, Tyler brought his girlfriend Sarah to meet everyone. She was a legal assistant at one of the firms where he had interviewed an attractive brunette with an MBA who seemed genuinely interested in Tyler's career prospects. "Tyler's told me so much about his family," she said over dinner. "It must be wonderful knowing you'll inherit such a beautiful home. Most couples have to struggle for years to afford anything this nice." "I've been very fortunate," Tyler agreed, gesturing around the dining room. "My parents have always been incredibly supportive." Sarah turned to me politely. "And Erick, Tyler mentioned you work in construction. That must be rewarding, building things with your hands." "I own a construction company," I corrected gently. "We specialize in residential additions and commercial renovations." "Oh, you're a business owner. How exciting!" It must be nice having the flexibility to help family when they need it. The comment was innocent, but it highlighted how Tyler had portrayed our family dynamics to his girlfriend. He had obviously discussed my financial contributions without mentioning they were unreciprocated and unappreciated. Eric has always been very giving, my mother said, which was the closest thing to acknowledgement I had received in months. After dinner, I overheard Tyler and Sarah discussing their future living arrangements in the backyard. "The location is perfect for my commute," Sarah was saying. "And with no mortgage payments, we could afford to start a family much sooner than originally planned." "Exactly," Tyler replied. "Plus, we'll have equity to borrow against for furniture, cars, whatever we need. It's like starting married life with a major head start." They spoke about their future with complete confidence, never questioning whether Tyler's inheritance would actually materialize into the financial freedom they expected. Neither of them considered that someone else might be responsible for maintaining the asset they planned to inherit. I found their conversation simultaneously amusing and infuriating. Here was a couple building life plans around money they hadn't earned, supported by mortgage payments they didn't know were about to stop. "You're remarkably calm about all this," Amanda observed during our drive home. "I expected you to be angrier." "I was angry at first," I said, "but now I'm more interested in watching natural consequences play out. They've built this whole fantasy on the assumption that I'll keep paying forever without recognition. I want to see what happens when reality hits. What if they can't cover the mortgage and lose the house? Then Tyler inherits debt instead of equity, and maybe he learns that financial security requires actual work rather than just expectations." 27 days after my last payment, I received a phone call from Sarah that changed everything. "Hi, Eric. This is Sarah, Tyler's girlfriend. I hope you don't mind me calling directly, but I wanted to thank you for being so welcoming when we met." "Of course. You seem like a lovely person. I actually had a question about the house. Tyler mentioned that your family has owned it for a long time. Do you know if there are any liens or complications with the property? I work in legal, so I always encourage people to research these things thoroughly." My stomach tightened. "Why are you asking?" "Tyler applied for a home equity loan to start some renovations, but the bank is requiring additional documentation. They mentioned something about payment history and current obligations. I thought maybe you'd know since you're in business and probably understand financial matters better than the rest of us." Tyler had applied for a home equity loan on a house where he wasn't making mortgage payments, using an asset that belonged to our parents while they struggled to afford basic expenses. "I think Tyler should discuss property details with our parents," I said carefully. "They would have the most accurate information." He tried, but they seemed confused about some of the paperwork. "Your dad's health issues make these conversations difficult, and your mom gets overwhelmed by financial documents." After hanging up, I sat in my truck outside the job site, trying to process what I had learned. Tyler wasn't just expecting to inherit the house. He was already treating it as collateral for additional debt, potentially putting our parents at risk of losing their home even faster. That evening, I called the mortgage company and spoke with a customer service representative about payment status. "The account is currently 30 days past due," she informed me. "We've sent notification letters to the property address. If payment isn't received within 30 days, we'll begin foreclosure proceedings." 30 days. Tyler had 30 more days to figure out how to come up with $1,500 monthly, or the house he planned to inherit would be lost entirely. I thanked the representative and hung up, knowing that tomorrow would bring the phone call I had been anticipating for exactly 1 month. My phone rang at 8:47 in the morning, while I was reviewing blueprints for a church renovation project. The caller ID showed Mom, and I let it ring twice before answering, curious about her tone. "Eric, thank goodness you answered." Her voice carried a mixture of panic and relief that immediately transported me back to childhood moments, when I had been her solution to various crises. "The bank called this morning. They said our mortgage payment is overdue, and they're going to start foreclosure proceedings." "That's unfortunate," I replied calmly, continuing to review the architectural drawings spread across my kitchen table. Can you transfer the payment today? I know it's short notice, but we've never been late before, and I'm terrified they'll take the house. Her assumption that I would immediately solve the problem revealed how completely my family had taken my financial support for granted. 3 years of secret payments had created an expectation that Erick would always handle mortgage emergencies, regardless of how he was treated otherwise. I'm not going to transfer any money, Mom. The silence stretched long enough that I wondered if the call had dropped. What do you mean you're not going to transfer money? She finally asked, confusion replacing panic in her voice. I mean, I've stopped paying your mortgage. This is the first month you'll need to handle it yourselves. But you always pay it. You've been paying it for years. Why would you stop now? Her words confirmed what Tyler had accidentally revealed during the will reading. They had all known about my contributions, while choosing to exclude me from any benefits. Because the house isn't mine, I explained patiently. According to the will we just signed, Tyler inherits everything. Since I received nothing, I decided to stop paying for property that won't belong to me. That's not how family works, she protested. You help because you love us, not because you expect something in return. You're right that love shouldn't be transactional. I agreed. But respect should be reciprocal. You can't dismiss someone's contributions for 3 years and then demand they continue contributing indefinitely. She hung up without saying goodbye. 10 minutes later, Tyler called. His voice contained none of his usual casual confidence. Erick, what the hell is wrong with you? Mom just called crying about the mortgage payment. You need to fix this immediately. I don't need to fix anything, I said. You're inheriting the house. The mortgage is your responsibility now. That's not how this works. You can't just stop paying because you're having some kind of emotional breakdown about the will. His dismissive tone triggered a flash of anger I had been suppressing for months. This isn't an emotional breakdown, Tyler. This is a financial decision based on logical assessment of costs versus benefits. I've contributed $54,000 to preserve an asset I'll never own. That arrangement no longer makes sense. $54,000. His voice cracked slightly. That's impossible. $1,500 monthly for 36 months equals $54,000. I can provide bank records if you need documentation. But why didn't you tell anyone? Because I thought family helped family without needing recognition. I was wrong. Family helps family when that help is appreciated and reciprocated, not when it's exploited by people who consider themselves entitled to unlimited support. Tyler's tone shifted from demanding to pleading. Look, I know the will situation hurt your feelings, but we can work something out. Maybe I can give you some of the inheritance, or put your name on the house deed. You can't give me some of what was never yours to begin with. And I don't want charity from someone who thinks I'm having an emotional breakdown for expecting basic fairness. This is insane. You're going to let our parents lose their house over some petty revenge scheme. I'm not letting them lose anything. I'm stopping my participation in a financial arrangement where I bear all the costs, while others receive all the benefits. If you inherit the house, you inherit the mortgage payments that come with it. After Tyler hung up, I returned to my blueprints with a strange sense of peace. For the first time in years, I had clearly articulated my position without apologizing for expecting fair treatment. My father called an hour later, his voice weak, but determined despite his health issues. Erick, your mother is hysterical, and Tyler is threatening to sue you. What's this nonsense about stopping mortgage payments? It's not nonsense, Dad. It's a business decision. I've been paying your mortgage for 3 years while you plan to leave everything to Tyler. Since I won't own the house, I won't pay for it anymore. But we're family. You don't abandon family because of money. I haven't abandoned anyone. I'm still your son, and I still love you. But I won't continue paying for other people's assets while receiving nothing but gratitude in return. This is selfish and irresponsible. What's selfish is expecting unlimited financial support from someone you've excluded from any benefits. What's irresponsible is planning to give away an asset that someone else has been maintaining. He hung up after muttering something about ungrateful children. Throughout the day, I received 6 more calls from various family members. My mother's sister Carol called to lecture me about family obligations. Tyler called twice more, alternating between threats and desperate bargaining. Even Sarah called clearly concerned about how this crisis might affect her relationship with Tyler. "I don't understand why you're punishing Tyler for your parents' decisions," she said during our brief conversation. "I'm not punishing anyone. I'm simply stopping a financial arrangement that doesn't benefit me. Tyler can inherit the house, but he needs to figure out how to pay for it." "But what if he can't afford the mortgage payments? What if they lose the house?" "Then he'll inherit debt instead of equity, which might teach him something valuable about the relationship between ownership and responsibility." Each phone call reinforced my decision. My family's panic and accusations revealed how completely they had expected me to continue paying indefinitely while receiving nothing meaningful in return. Their shock at my refusal demonstrated that they had never considered my financial contributions valuable enough to influence their estate planning. Amanda came over that evening and found me surprisingly relaxed despite the family chaos. "How was the day of reckoning?" she asked. "Educational," I replied. "I learned that my family considers my financial contributions both essential and worthless. Essential enough that they panic when I stop, but worthless enough that they never factored them into inheritance decisions." "Are you having second thoughts about your decision?" "Not at all. If anything, their reactions today confirm that I made the right choice. They're angry that their financial safety net disappeared, but none of them have acknowledged the unfairness that created this situation." "What happens now?" "Now we see if Tyler can afford to inherit what he thinks he deserves." I had no idea that the next few weeks would reveal far more devastating family secrets than anyone could have anticipated. Rather than simply walking away from the situation, I decided to take strategic action to recover the money I had contributed. The next morning, I scheduled an appointment with Patricia Williams, an attorney who specialized in civil litigation and had handled contract disputes for my construction company. Patricia's office occupied a sleek downtown Cleveland building, and her reputation for aggressive representation had earned her respect throughout the local business community. During our consultation, I explained the situation methodically. 3 years of voluntary mortgage payments totaling $54,000 for property I would never inherit. "Do I have any legal recourse to recover these contributions?" I asked. Patricia reviewed the documentation I had brought, bank records showing every transfer, the mortgage company's payment history, and copies of my parents' will excluding me from inheritance. "This is a textbook case of unjust enrichment," she said after studying the materials. "You provided substantial financial benefit to preserve an asset while being excluded from that asset's value. The legal principle is simple. No one should profit from another person's contributions without compensating them fairly." "What are my options?" "Several approaches. We could file a civil lawsuit seeking repayment of your contributions plus interest. Alternatively, we could place a lien on the property to ensure you're compensated when it's sold or transferred. The lien approach is often more effective because it makes the property unmarketable until the debt is resolved." "How long would either process take?" "A lawsuit could take months or years depending on their response. A lien can be filed within weeks and immediately affects the property's title. Given that your brother apparently expects to inherit, a lien would force immediate negotiations." I authorized Patricia to prepare both options while I handled the family situation strategically. That evening, I invited my parents and Tyler to meet at my house for what I described as a family discussion about resolving this mortgage situation. They arrived together, Tyler wearing his lawyer suit, despite not yet being licensed to practice law. We sat around my dining room table with Amanda, present for moral support. I had prepared detailed financial documentation showing my 3 years of contributions, current market value of their house, and calculations of what I was owed, including reasonable interest. I want to present you with a proposal that benefits everyone. I began sliding copies of the documents across the table. I've calculated that my contributions total $54,000. With reasonable interest for the time value of money, the current amount owed is approximately $60,000. Tyler scoffed. You can't charge your own family interest on gifts you chose to give. These weren't gifts. Gifts are acknowledged and appreciated. These were investments in preserving family property, and investors expect returns. My mother studied the bank records with obvious discomfort. We never asked you to pay our mortgage. But you accepted the payments for 36 months while planning to exclude me from benefiting from the asset I was preserving. Acceptance of benefit creates legal obligation. Tyler leaned back in his chair with forced confidence. This is ridiculous. You can't suddenly decide that gifts were loans just because you're upset about inheritance decisions. Actually, I can, I replied calmly. And I have legal counsel prepared to file suit for unjust enrichment if we can't reach an agreement voluntarily. The room fell silent as they processed this information. My father, looking pale and tired, spoke first. What kind of agreement are you proposing? 3 options, I said, consulting my notes. First, you can pay me $60,000 immediately, and I'll sign a release waiving any future claims. Second, you can modify the will to give me equal inheritance rights, reflecting my financial contributions. Third, I'll file a lien against the property, ensuring I'm compensated when it's sold or transferred. Tyler's facade of confidence crumbled. Where are we supposed to get $60,000? And you can't put a lien on property you don't own. I can put a lien on property where I have a legitimate financial interest. My attorney has confirmed this is legally sound. You're bluffing, Tyler said, but his voice lacked conviction. Patricia Williams, at Downtown Cleveland Legal Group. You can call her office to verify that I've retained representation for this matter. My mother looked devastated. I can't believe you're threatening to sue your own family. I'm not threatening anything. I'm offering you multiple ways to resolve this fairly, before legal action becomes necessary. Tyler stood up abruptly. This is blackmail. You're trying to extort money by threatening legal action. Actually, it's negotiation. Blackmail involves threatening to reveal embarrassing secrets. I'm threatening to pursue legitimate legal remedies for financial damages. There's a significant difference, especially for someone planning to practice law. Over the following hour, we discussed each option thoroughly. The $60,000 cash payment was impossible given their limited retirement savings. Modifying the will would require Tyler to surrender part of his inheritance, which he refused to consider. The lien option would prevent them from selling or refinancing until my claim was resolved. What if I can't afford the mortgage payments? Tyler finally admitted. What if we lose the house to foreclosure? Then, the foreclosure sale would pay my lien first, before you inherit anything. I explained. Secured creditors have priority over inheritance beneficiaries. The meeting ended without resolution, but I could see them processing the reality that their comfortable assumptions had become a complex legal and financial problem. 3 days later, Sarah called me with unexpected information. Erick, I think you need to know something about Tyler's job situation. He failed the bar exam. I'm sorry to hear that. He hasn't told your parents yet. He's been pretending to have job interviews while actually working part-time at a document review company for $12 an hour. He can't afford $1,500 mortgage payments or any kind of settlement with you. This revelation added another layer to the family crisis. Tyler's entire identity as the successful son, with a promising legal career, was built on deception. His inheritance expectations weren't just unrealistic. They were his only hope for maintaining the lifestyle he had been pretending to afford. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because I don't want to build a relationship on lies, and I think Tyler needs help facing reality rather than enablement from family members who don't know the truth. That evening, I met with Patricia to discuss this new information. Your brother's financial situation actually strengthens our position, she observed. He can't pay, you can't afford the mortgage, and can't maintain the property he expects to inherit. The court will likely view his inheritance expectations as unrealistic, given his inability to assume the associated obligations. What's our next step? File the lien immediately. Once it's recorded, they can't transfer or sell the property without addressing your claim. The pressure will force honest negotiations. And if they still refuse to negotiate, then we let foreclosure proceedings continue and recover your money from the sale proceeds. Either way, you get compensated for your contributions. As I signed the paperwork authorizing Patricia to file the lien, I realized my family's crisis was about to become much more complicated than anyone had anticipated. The lien was filed on a Thursday morning, and by Friday afternoon, my parents received notification that their property title now carried a $60,000 legal claim in my name. The document, delivered by certified mail, transformed their inheritance plans from simple to legally impossible. Tyler called me that evening, his voice carrying none of his previous arrogance. "Eric, we need to talk. This lien thing is serious." "Yes, it is. Sarah told me she talked to you. She had no right to share my personal information. She was honest about your situation because she cares about you. Unfortunately, honesty seems to be in short supply in our family lately. Look, I know I haven't been completely truthful about the bar exam and job prospects, but this lien makes everything impossible. I can't inherit a house that has $60,000 in debt attached to it." That was the point. You can't inherit the benefits of property ownership without accepting the responsibilities that come with it. The following week brought a cascade of revelations that exposed the full extent of my family's financial deception. Tyler's girlfriend, Sarah, had begun questioning other aspects of his finances, and her legal background made her skilled at uncovering inconsistencies. During a family dinner the previous month, Tyler had mentioned applying for a home equity loan, using the house as collateral. Sarah's professional instincts prompted her to research the property records more thoroughly, and what she discovered was devastating. She called me on a Tuesday morning with urgent concern in her voice. "Eric, I need to tell you something alarming about your parents' house. I pulled the complete property records, and there are multiple liens and mortgages that nobody has mentioned." "What kind of liens?" "Your father took out a second mortgage 3 years ago for $25,000. Then, another home equity loan last year for $18,000. The total debt on the property is approximately $78,000, not the $45,000 your family thinks." The implications hit me immediately. My mortgage payments hadn't just been preserving the family home. They had been subsidizing secret borrowing that my father had hidden from the rest of us. "Does Tyler know about these additional debts?" "I don't think anyone knows except your father. The house isn't worth $200,000 in equity like Tyler believes. It's worth maybe $15,000 after all debts are paid." That evening, I confronted my father directly, bringing printed copies of the property records Sarah had obtained. "Dad, we need to discuss your borrowing history. You've taken out additional loans against the house without telling anyone." His face went pale as he recognized the documents. "Where did you get these?" "That's not important. What matters is that you've borrowed $43,000 against the house, while I've been paying the original mortgage. Tyler thinks he's inheriting valuable property, but he's actually inheriting debt. I needed money for medical bills and home repairs. The stroke recovery was expensive, and insurance didn't cover everything." "Why didn't you ask for help instead of borrowing secretly?" "Because you boys have your own lives and expenses. I didn't want to burden you with more financial problems." His explanation revealed the tragic irony. While I had been secretly paying their mortgage to help with financial problems, he had been secretly borrowing money because he didn't want to ask for help with financial problems. Our family's complete failure to communicate honestly about money had created a situation where everyone was hiding financial sacrifices from each other. When my mother learned about the secret borrowing, her reaction was explosive. For the first time in my adult life, I watched her confront my father with genuine anger rather than supportive understanding. "You mortgaged our house without telling me you put our home at risk and let Tyler believe he was inheriting something valuable." "I was trying to protect everyone," my father protested weakly. "You were protecting your pride while destroying our family's future," she shot back. Tyler's response was even more devastating. When he learned the true financial situation, his carefully constructed plans collapsed entirely. The house he expected to inherit free and clear actually carried $78,000 in debt, plus my $60,000 lien. Instead of inheriting valuable assets, he would be responsible for debt that exceeded his annual earning potential. His law firm job prospects, already damaged by his bar exam failure, evaporated completely when word spread about his family's financial complications. Legal employers performed thorough background checks, and Tyler's connection to property disputes and potential litigation made him unemployable at reputable firms. Sarah ended their relationship after discovering the depth of Tyler's deception about his career prospects and family finances. During their breakup conversation, which Tyler foolishly had in front of me during a family gathering, she articulated what everyone was thinking. "I can't build a future with someone who lies about everything important," she told him. "Your career, your finances, your family situation. None of it was honest. I don't even know who you really are." Tyler's response was to blame everyone else for his problems. "My family lied to me about the house value. Erick sabotaged everything with his ridiculous lien. Sarah abandoned me when I needed support most." But the most shocking revelation came when I decided to research the property's complete history. Using my business connections in real estate and construction, I obtained records dating back 20 years and discovered something that explained my father's secretive financial behavior. The original down payment for the house had come from my paternal grandmother's estate 15 years earlier, but the records showed that my father had been named executor of her will and had distributed her assets unevenly among her 3 children, giving himself $60,000 more than his siblings received. My grandmother's will had specified equal distribution among her children, but my father had manipulated the estate to fund his house purchase while shortchanging his own brother and sister. The secret borrowing against the house was actually an attempt to repay money he had essentially stolen from his siblings years earlier. When I confronted him with this evidence, my father's health declined rapidly from the stress of his deception being exposed. The same pride that had prevented him from asking for help had led him to steal from his mother's estate and lie to his family for over a decade. The family gathering where I revealed this information was the most painful conversation of my adult life. My mother learned that her husband was not the honorable man she had believed him to be. Tyler discovered that his entire inheritance was built on fraud and debt rather than legitimate family wealth. And I realized that my financial contributions had been propping up a house of lies rather than supporting genuine family needs. Within 6 weeks of the will reading that had excluded me from inheritance, my family's carefully maintained facade had crumbled completely. The foreclosure proceedings continued because nobody could afford the mortgage payments. Tyler's career prospects disappeared. My parents faced retirement with overwhelming debt and destroyed trust between them. On a gray October morning, I sat in the mortgage company's foreclosure auction and watched strangers bid on the house I had been paying for. The winning bid was $92,000, enough to pay off the original mortgage and my father's additional loans, but not enough to cover my lien or leave anything for inheritance. As the auctioneer's gavel fell, I realized that my $60,000 lien claim would soon become a cash settlement, and my family would become renters in a community where they had once been homeowners. But the story wasn't over yet. The foreclosure auction ended with an unexpected twist that nobody in my family saw coming. When the dust settled and the paperwork was processed, the winning bidder was revealed to be Hartman Construction LLC, my own company. I had registered for the auction using my business name rather than my personal identity, and my $92,000 bid was the highest offer submitted. After 3 years of paying their mortgage, I had finally become the legal owner of my parents' former home. The decision to purchase the property wasn't motivated by revenge or spite. During the weeks leading up to the auction, I had consulted with Patricia Williams about the most practical way to resolve the complicated financial situation while minimizing damage to family relationships. If you buy the house at auction, you'll recover your lien claim, plus gain ownership of the property, she had explained. More importantly, you'll have complete control over how to handle your family's living situation going forward. Meaning what exactly? Meaning you can choose to be generous from a position of strength, rather than being exploited from a position of vulnerability. Amanda had supported the auction strategy because it offered the possibility of rebuilding family relationships on healthier terms. Instead of them taking your money while excluding you from decisions, you'll own the asset and can include them in your decisions, she pointed out. The day after the auction, I invited my parents to meet with me at the house they had lost, but where they were still living pending the transition of ownership. Tyler was notably absent, having moved into a studio apartment in downtown Cleveland, where he was working temporary document review jobs while studying to retake the bar exam. I know this situation feels humiliating and devastating. I began, but I want to offer you an opportunity to rebuild both your living situation and our relationship. My father, whose health had continued declining due to stress, looked exhausted and defeated. What kind of opportunity? I'm going to renovate the basement into a comfortable apartment with its own entrance, full bathroom and kitchenette. You can live there rent-free in exchange for helping me with my business operations. What kind of help? My mother asked cautiously. Dad, your accounting background would be valuable for managing my construction company's bookkeeping and tax preparation. Mom, I need help with administrative tasks, like scheduling client communications and office organization. It would be part-time work that accommodates Dad's health limitations. They exchanged glances, processing the idea of working for their son rather than being supported by him. This feels like charity, my father said quietly. It's not charity. It's employment. I need competent people I can trust to help grow my business. You need affordable housing and supplemental income. This arrangement benefits everyone while allowing us to rebuild our relationship gradually. Over the following months, the family dynamics shifted completely. Instead of hiding financial contributions while being excluded from decisions, I was making transparent arrangements while including them in meaningful work. The basement renovation became a collaborative project. My father's input on the design was valuable, since he would be living in the space. My mother chose paint colors and fixtures, giving her ownership in the outcome. For the first time in years, we were working together toward shared goals, rather than operating from hidden agendas. Tyler's situation improved more slowly, but steadily. After retaking and passing the bar exam, he found entry-level employment at a small practice specializing in family law. His salary was modest, but his experience with our family's financial crisis had given him genuine empathy for clients facing similar situations. During a family dinner 6 months after the foreclosure, Tyler offered an apology that felt authentic rather than strategic. Erick, I need to acknowledge how wrong I was about everything. I spent years believing I was entitled to family support without contributing anything meaningful. I assumed your success meant you didn't need recognition or appreciation. What changed your perspective? I asked. Losing everything and having to rebuild from scratch. I learned that entitlement is just arrogance, dressed up as expectation. I also learned that respect has to be earned through actions, not inherited through favoritism. Are you applying those lessons to your legal career? Absolutely. I specialize in cases where families need help navigating financial disputes fairly. I've seen too many situations where assumptions about inheritance or support create lasting damage to relationships. My mother's transformation was perhaps the most significant. Working in my office part-time, she discovered skills and confidence she hadn't known she possessed. Her natural ability to communicate with clients made her invaluable for customer service and project coordination. I spent 30 years defining myself entirely through your father's career and your boy's achievements. She confided during one of our weekly business meetings. I never developed my own identity or skills. This job has shown me that I'm capable of contributing meaningfully to something important. You were always capable, I replied. You just needed opportunities to demonstrate it. My father's health stabilized once the stress of financial secrecy was removed. Working on my company's books gave him purpose and mental stimulation, while accommodating his physical limitations. More importantly, our working relationship allowed us to develop mutual respect as adults, rather than maintaining the parent-child dynamic that had defined our interactions for decades. I owe you an enormous apology, he said during one of our morning coffee meetings in his basement apartment. I spent years taking your contributions for granted while investing all my attention in Tyler's potential, rather than your actual accomplishments. What matters is moving forward, I replied. We can't change the past, but we can build better relationships going forward. Amanda and I married the following spring, in a small ceremony, held in the backyard of what had once been my parents' house, and was now our shared home. The guest list was small, but meaningful family members who had learned to appreciate each other's contributions rather than taking them for granted. During my wedding speech, I reflected on the lessons our family had learned through crisis. A year ago, I thought family loyalty meant giving everything while asking for nothing. I said, I learned that real family loyalty means giving and receiving fairly, with mutual respect and honest communication. Love without respect becomes exploitation. Generosity without appreciation becomes enabling. But the most important lesson was that fighting back doesn't mean destroying relationships. It means demanding that relationships be built on fairness rather than favoritism, on mutual support rather than one-sided sacrifice. Tyler, who served as my best man despite our complicated history, added his own perspective during the reception. My brother taught me that entitlement is the enemy of gratitude, and that assuming people will always be there for you is the fastest way to drive them away. But he also taught me that mistakes can be learning opportunities if you're willing to do the work of earning back trust. The business arrangement with my parents evolved into something none of us had expected: a genuine partnership where everyone contributed according to their abilities and everyone benefited fairly from the results. Within 2 years, Hartman Construction had grown large enough to open a second office, and my parents' administrative contributions had been essential to that expansion. As I write this story, 3 years after that devastating will reading, I'm sitting in my home office overlooking a backyard where my parents tend a garden they planted in soil they once thought they'd never own again. Amanda is upstairs planning the nursery for our first child, and Tyler lives 15 minutes away in a house he purchased with money he earned rather than inherited. The family wealth that once seemed permanently distributed through favoritism has been rebuilt through collaboration and mutual respect. More importantly, the family relationships that once seemed irreparably damaged have been rebuilt through honest communication and fair treatment. Sometimes the greatest act of love is refusing to enable the people you care about most. Sometimes, fighting back isn't about revenge. It's about teaching people how to treat you with dignity. And sometimes, losing everything is the first step toward building something better. My parents learned that respect and appreciation can't be taken for granted even from the most generous family members. Tyler learned that entitlement without effort leads to disappointment, while effort with humility leads to genuine accomplishment. I learned that my worth doesn't depend on other people's recognition, but that demanding recognition is essential for maintaining healthy relationships. If you're dealing with family members who take your contributions for granted while treating you as less valuable than others, remember that you have the right to expect fair treatment from people who benefit from your generosity. Love doesn't mean accepting disrespect. Family doesn't mean sacrificing yourself for people who wouldn't sacrifice for you. What boundaries have you set with family members who expected unlimited support while offering limited appreciation? Have you ever had to fight back against unfair treatment from people you loved? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else find the courage to demand better. If this story resonated with you, please like this video to help others find it. Subscribe for more stories about family dynamics and personal growth, and share it with anyone who might benefit from learning that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to be taken for granted. Thank you for listening to this journey from exploitation to empowerment, from favoritism to fairness, and from broken relationships to rebuilt trust. Remember that you deserve to be valued for your contributions, respected for your sacrifices, and included in the benefits you help create. May you find the courage to demand the treatment you deserve, and the wisdom to rebuild relationships on foundations of mutual respect rather than one-sided obligation.